Welcome to Science, Health and Healing Library of Children's Health Core. I'm Dr. Majid Ali. The subject of this article is brown fat, white fat, and irisin. Brown fat, commonly called as baby fat, under the microscope, it looks different than the fat cells of adults. The fat cells, brown fat is called brown fat because it does look brownish in color, while the adult type of fat is yellowish in color. Under the microscope, a fat cell of a brown fat shows a reticulated appearance. It's like the whole cell is cut up in multiple, innumerable compartments, and they have this particular type of fat in them. The adult fat, white fat or yellow fat, that would be, of course, where a fat cell has a centrally located single nucleus and the entire substance of the cell, cytoplasm of the cell, is filled with the adult type of fats. Irisin is a protein produced in the muscles. It is produced in excess or higher quantities when the muscles are healthy and active and exercising and moving. And it is produced in smaller amounts when the muscles are stagnant and inactive. Irisin is a transcription factor. It moderates the behavior of genes in the muscles, which determine the functionality and the structure of muscles. You should add the word irisin in your vocabulary if you're interested in the subject of toddlers' obesity, children's overweight problem, pediatric diabetes type 2. In a companion article, I predict an epidemic of pediatric diabetes type 2 within 10 years. Irisin protein is named after Iris. In Greek mythology, Iris was the messenger. And the point is to underscore an important point that fat muscle cells communicate with fat cells and other types of cell populations in the body to preserve this ever-changing energetic molecular kaleidoscope which a human body is. The fundamental difference between the brown baby fat and the yellow or the white adult fat is that the baby fat is more efficient in turning energy into heat to keep the temperature up, so it's not fattening. The white or the yellow adult type of fat cells, they're fattening. They have a tendency to accumulate more and more fat, and of course the fat becomes rancid and dead, and that's why it is so much harder to get rid of the mid-belly fat, which has a higher correlation with heart disease and strokes and other degenerative disorders, as well as with cancer. Now in mice it has been shown that if you get the mice to work on their treadmills, which you cannot do with our children because their muscle cells are toxic. Not only the fat cells of obese children are toxic, their muscle cells are also toxic. So it's not no pain, no gain story. This is not what the pediatrician or the endocrinologist or the American Diabetic Association understands, which is very sad. It was almost 15 years ago that I published my oxygen model of obesity in the 5th volume of my 12-volume textbook, The Principles and Practice of Integrative Medicine. I also published my oxygen model of diabetes at about the same time. The problem is that what people need is deeper understanding so that they can take an enlightened view of this and make the right choices in their foods, environments, and thoughts. So if the muscles are healthy, they would want to move. If the muscles are sick, they will not want to move. Healthy muscles will produce more irisin, and that will turn white adult type of fat into brown baby fat. That's the importance of this article. That you can, For years, we were told that baby brown fat is not found in adults, which always surprised me because at autopsy, you always found those areas of brown fat or baby fat in adults. And then until, some years ago, finally, it was recognized by the general community that yes, brown fat, brown baby fat is present in small amounts in adults, and its volume and quantity increases when people are healthy, especially with exercise. So going back to the Greek times, the sage Hippocrates used to say that the best way to be healthy is to walk. I suppose he knew that when you're walking by yourself, you're observing nature. You're in equilibrium with nature. I don't know if it is possible to have an angry mind if you are prayerfully, meditatively, limbically walking by a pond or by a river or by a lake. I don't know if that's possible. People usually get heart attacks not when they are prayerfully, meditatively walking, but because when they are in rage. And of course, I've heard stories of people dropping dead of a heart attack in cardiac rehab centers. That tells you something about heart disease, doesn't it? So add Irisin to your vocabulary. It's a myokine. Myokines are the substances, as I said, which are produced in the muscles to preserve the health of the rest of the body by communicating to other cell populations. This would be one great way of getting rid of dead fat. But you've got to focus on the toxicities in foods and thoughts and environment. Because if your toddlers' muscles are tired and painful, and they are filled with stagnant lymph, and the muscles are not breathing and there is not oxygen in there, then to push in this toddler, it's not going to work. Pushing this teenager, it's not going to work. The responsibility is with us parents, is with us our teachers. No, it's not with American Diabetic Association. They're not interested. All their profitability comes from focusing on the sugar and the sugar testing and the diabetic drugs and the insulin and the amputation and all the other procedures which are related to diabetes. That's a harsh criticism. I would love to have anybody from American Diabetic Association challenge me. But we'll do it on my radio show, Science, Health and Healing, New York, or we will do it on my television program, again, Science, Health and Healing. Let's engage in a civilized conversation. Don't throw your nonsense at me and say, oh, Dr. Ali, you don't know science. So the responsibility then of understanding is really with grown-ups until the children can grow up and they're old enough to learn this. Please understand the crucial issue of the rate of insulin release in response to various types of foods. I have several programs on it. Bread alone or bread with butter. Toast alone or toast with eggs. Blueberry alone or blueberry with cottage cheese. Cheesecake or apple pie. In so many ways, I'm trying to raise your consciousness to the real issues which are feeding this epidemic of pediatric diabetes type 2. It's not, if you stay in the old way of counting calories, calorie in, calorie out, that's not going to work. It hasn't worked in the last 60 years, and it's not going to work in the next 60 years. If you look at diabetes as a problem of sugar, that hasn't worked in the last 60 years, it's not going to work in the next 60 years. But if you try to understand the difference between brown fat and white fat, if you understand that active muscles produce more irisin, which turns some of the dead white or yellow adult fat into healthy, energetically much more efficient. In common language, brown fat is slimming. White or yellow fat is fattening. Muscles determine whether how much of your fat is fattening, white fat, or it is slimming, brown fat. Our vision at Children's Health Code is to provide authentic information untainted by corporate deceptions, Please forward this YouTube segment to your friends, family, email, Facebook, Twitter contacts. If you wish to support us more, visit the official website of this Children's Health Corps, kids123.org, www.kids123.org. There are a large number of articles that I posted and explaining in a print form what I can only say in a rather abbreviated form in these YouTube segments. Thank you for joining me, and do join me again. Thank you so much.